Hey everyone, before we get started with the video, I wanted to say if you like the content I'm putting out for the channel, please feel free to subscribe and comment on what else you'd like to see on this channel going forward.
General, are you all right?
I'm fine. Seems I've created quite the mess now, haven't I?
Yes, sir.
Oh boy, a blast from the past, and it ain't Samurai Jack. It's Star Wars Clone Wars, not to be confused with Star Wars The Clone Wars. This is the good one, and it does its job in 2 hours versus like 50 seasons. It was released in 2003 and was created by Genndy Tartakovsky, the man responsible for most of your childhood cartoon favorites, and murdering my waifu Ashi. So what is Clone Wars about? And I'm seriously gonna have a hard time removing the foregone "the" from the title, but yeah, what is the 2D Clone Wars about? The good one? Well, it takes place in between the second and third prequel movie. Essentially, this micro-series is meant to act as a hype campaign for the third prequel. It's such a shame, too, that this is about 300 times more badass than that movie, because Clone Wars is beast.
A bold claim.
There is so much ass kicking and explosions that it just insert generic Michael Bay comment. You've got Mace Windu punching droids. General Grievous cutting people apart. You got Dirge, freaking Dirge.
Do you remember Boba Fett?
Gotta give it up for Boba Fett.
I do remember Boba Fett.
Give it up for the man in the Mandalorian armor, ladies and gentlemen.
Boba Fett.
Boba Fett.
Remember Boba Fett?
Boba Fett.
He's like Toguro meets an Eldrazi meets Lobo. It's awesome. You don't even know how cool Dirge is, but don't worry. He's in the expanded universe. You know, all those comic books that Disney murdered. But go and read the comics anyway, because they're too lazy to book burn. Geez, I can't believe there's a whole generation of people overreacting to a corporation saying that something is arbitrarily not canon. Grow up. So yeah, Clone Wars is split into two films. It's not really a film. It's not shot on film. It's animated, so it's a movie. In the first movie, and it's 1 hour in length, you've got Anakin, still a Padawan under Obi-Wan Kenobi. There's the war against the droid army led by General Grievous, but the real center point of this movie and the following one is the dabbling into the dark side by Anakin. This is seen with Anakin's duel with the assassin Asajj Ventress, and in the second movie, it's about freeing a bunch of dog people. Oh, the symbolism in that one. Since Anakin's story is the important one and everything else is explosions and fighting, and oh my god, Yoda just clapped 2 freaking planes together. Jesus, the power of the Force is so OP. You know, and we got like fire and stuff. Let's go over the genius behind his fight against Asajj Ventress. And if you want a TLDR or just want to enjoy the experience for yourself, just do it. It's worth it. There's your spoiler warning. Anyway, after witnessing a bunch of his men get killed by the Force and one exploding in front of him, and oh man, he killed his droid. That thing was irreplaceable. That is until he gets R2-D2 in like the next scene. Anakin says,
"I'm going to make you pay for what you've done."
And Asajj Ventress responds with,
"Come, Padawan. Your fall will be my ascension to the Sith."
and the fight is on. This fight is quite literally the best in all of Star Wars. Canon or not, I don't care what anyone says. It's a give and take showdown that escalates. There's no silly dialogue to break up the fight, and we get an even battle between two powerful characters with just any type of slip up can lead to giant amounts of punishment. Anakin messes up one time, Ventress punishes it with a force push. The music then dips as the rain falls. The intensity of the fight increases without music. You feel the seriousness of every blow. Then the music kicks back in, and you know the final moments of this fight are approaching. We see the light of the blood moon cast upon both our characters, and it's symbolic. They're both essentially Sith now. Anakin loses his saber and is able to apprehend one of hers. Oh man, the symbolism! And the first sounds out of Anakin's mouth since this fight began is a loud roar as he smashes Asajj Ventress off a cliff. And her last sounds were a scream of terror as she plummets to her death. Nah, she ain't dead. And she got like the Darth Maul treatment. Cause of course, Asajj Ventress is cool. We've got to sell action figures. We got to make comics on this stuff. Expanded universe can expand indefinitely, just like the solar system. The universe, the omniverse, it'll stretch as far as can be, and Darkseid can go to the edge of the universe in 5 seconds. I think I explained pretty well why this scene is amazing. Essentially a combination of using the musical score correctly, the symbolism with the red light. I mean, you can even stretch the symbolism even further because, you know, this is Star Wars after all. The blue light of Anakin's lightsaber was so tiny, but it did light his way. But eventually, it was fizzled out, and he had to succumb to the dark side. And even with flashes of his master, Qui-Gon Jinn, and Obi-Wan, and even Yoda, who would all disapprove of this horrendous act, he went through with it anyway, and took a life. No one survives that drop. I don't care what anyone says. There's also the really clever use of bookends. They begin with a few words, and they both end with shouts and a scream. Everything was explained with their swords. I dare you to argue against me. What fight is better than this? It just can't be done. What, you gonna tell me Obi-Wan versus, what's-his-face, Darth Maul beats this? It doesn't. Old Man Kenobi versus Darth Vader is better? Pfft, yeah, the emotional tension was better, but no, this fight was best fight. I mean, even within this same little mini universe that Jenny created, Samuel L. Jackson is literally punching an army of droids to death. That's pretty awesome, but I feel like this one is better. So now we are on to the second film, and someone must have clued Jendy and the entire writing staff that by the time the movie 3 rolls around, Obi-Wan Kenobi needs to be the deadpan snarker.
So I assume the plan is to crawl through the sewer, work our way to the shield generator, fight our way through the defenses, blow up the generator, knocking out the shield, and all our troops swarm in and overwhelm the enemy.
Yep. Let's go.
What an incredible smell you've discovered. What now?
We swim.
I knew you were going to say that.
Remember how he was kind of an overly strict dude in the last movie, and especially in the first one? Well, now he's got a sense of humor since people were just hating Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I guess it's mainly because in this movie, Anakin is now a Jedi Knight. Even though Yoda said in the first movie that this kid is like a freak or something that shouldn't become a Jedi in the first place, the second film is a split between saving Chancellor Palpatine from Grievous with Shakti. The whole thing is a front, of course, and some Jedi lose their lives. The other part is the important part. It's Anakin going through a spiritual and physical journey to save these mutated dog people. And when he's alone in a cave, he looks at some art on the wall and has a fever dream, both explaining what happened to the dog people and what may become of him when exposed to evil and power. It isn't until he hears the echoing voice of Padme that he comes to. And yeah, she's in this movie. And her relationship is actually pretty genuine. Go figure, when it's not directed by George Lucas, you can have a real media-res relationship. And it's with cartoons! You lost to a cartoon, George! Well, it's all very, very, very complicated. Pfft, whatever. So, Anakin symbolically loses his robot hand again. He inspires a bunch of dog people, and he dabbles in the dark side again, and kills the crap out of these slavers. The symbolism here is that these ugly, disfigured monsters who are missing a hand are an analog for Anakin, since he becomes an ugly, disfigured monster who is also missing a hand, and legs, and other stuff. And that lesson here is that you might be an ugly monster on the outside, but you still retain your humanity on the inside. The dog people are welcomed back home, and Anakin, as we know, isn't human on the inside. He's still a rotten, horrible, unforgivable, child-killing monster in the third movie. He sucks. He does not deserve immortality. He's a monster. He learned nothing from this. And we are now prepped for movie 3. Let's go. Let's get disappointed. I love this little piece of Star Wars. It's animated and directed by a childhood hero. It's got a nice blend of action and story. I mean, have you seen the love they gave these stormtroopers? They're all like coordinated and stuff. And this guy right here, he just goes full ham on these droids. Like the camera guy who's watching this is going like all a little shaky cam. And I don't even know why it's doing that. It's like, imagine like a lone journalist is filming this. Like, holy crap, this is the most powerful stormtrooper ever. I hope they stay this way. No, they won't, because in every movie, stormtroopers and by extension, clone troopers are garbage. I'm sorry, I keep calling them stormtroopers that they're not. I think these are clone troopers and they become stormtroopers. Sorry, my Star Wars lore is fading fast. But I digress. The story aspect of this movie focused on the most important aspects needed to be established for the third. Saving Chancellor Palpatine because he's all abducted and whatnot, and that Anakin is like really, really evil and should have been aborted. I know people complain about the elevator scene in the Revenge of the Sith. Like there's this scene between Obi-Wan and Anakin, they're like, oh, buddy, remember that time I saved you from blah, 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 blah? And hey, do you remember the time I saved you from blah, 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 blah? But yeah, the whole bonding of brotherhood with Anakin and Obi-Wan, yeah, that's supposed to be represented in this mini-movie. I know a bunch of reviewers have talked about that scene. It's still not much, but yeah, this is kind of required viewing since movie 3 makes no sense without this. Like why does Grievous have a cough? Oh, well, that's because in this mini movie we had here, Mace Windu crushed his chest. And Jesus, that looked painful. Why is Chancellor Palpatine abducted? Well, it's in this mini movie because Shakti can't handle anything. Why is Anakin evil? Oh, because Yoda called us in the first movie. You should have killed the kid. His metachlorians were through the roof. Insert generic over 9,000 reference. All in all, I loved the action set pieces, and it achieved what it set out to do. Animation was top-notch. The Jedi moved just as fast as they were introduced in the first movie. And by first movie, I mean the Phantom Menace, because I'm going by whatever the true chronology is. Remember how Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan moved really, really fast? They move that fast in this movie. But yeah, they were nerfed in the third one. But sadly, this movie, and I have to use quotations there, is just a hype train. I just really wish they remade all the prequel movies under Jendy's direction. I mean, he's so used to killing waifus, I'm sure he'd have Anakin force choke Padme, and that scene would be like 10 times more dramatic. Oh, we can only dream. Overall, it gets a score of 8 out of 10. Just please don't flame me. I have a hard time giving things perfect scores. Well, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also, comment on what I can cover next. I do read all the comments. With that being said, have a good day.